a Tuesday. It is a Tuesday afternoon, right here on Intentional Talk Radio Network. This is where we bring you all the news that you can possibly stand. And we are celebrating Black Music Month. We are celebrating Black Music Month, and we want to celebrate all those who bring that good, wholesome Black music. And folks, listen, guess what I heard this afternoon? The Temptations on the way. They played My Girl, my mother's favorite record. And guess what? When My Girl was out in 1964, we went into LA to pick up some friends to bring them back. My mother stopped at the record shop. Yes, the record shop, and bought the 45 for 99 cents. Would you believe that?
Couldn't have
And
been 99 cents in 64.
it was 99 cents. And Ma bought My Girl, the
No,
Temptations.
because I remember the first record I ever bought was Wes Montgomery's Day in Life for 45 cents. And that was late 60s.
For 45 cents. Well, some of you don't know anything about that. Guess what? The 45s are still slamming today.
I've got a couple of them.
Well, guess what? If anybody has a 45, or even if they have a 33, guess what? They're worth a whole lot. Don't ever get rid of it because it is a valuable piece of merchandise. Don't ever get rid of it. Well, today we've got some great people on the show with us this afternoon, and I would like to bring them on. And it is such an honor for me to introduce them and to bring them because I am a Dancing with the Stars fan. And I believe wholeheartedly that Dancing with the Stars would just be moving around without what they bring. And they bring Dancing with the Stars to light. And it is my pleasure, our pleasure, to introduce Ray and Vivian Chew, music directors from Dancing with the Stars, Apollo, and so much more, so much more. They are the real, true Dancing with the Stars, and I love it. I absolutely love it. And I believe wholeheartedly that without the two of you, they would just be moving around on the floor. You guys bring it, you make it happen. And that's the way I feel about it. I've been watching it, I think, from day one. And I have always, always felt like what you bring to television is just absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for being with us. How are you guys doing?
Thank you for having us. I wish I could take credit for the great work that Ray does with Dancing with the Stars and all the other TV shows that he does, but he's the maestro. I'm the wife of the maestro on this one. This is all his artistry.
Well, you know what they say about behind every great man, so.
Oh, well, I'll take that. I'll take
that. Also, she's not behind, she's alongside.
Alongside, yeah, I love it. I absolutely love it.
Absolutely.
I said we're in business together, and she has a great stellar career of her own, and we come together to do wonderful things.
Very powerful. Absolutely love it.
Absolutely wonderful.
Also, forgive me, I've been to the dentist today, so I'm a little loopy. So I asked a strange question. Just
loopy can be a good thing sometimes.
I'm feeling pretty good.
Yeah, loopy is a real good thing because had I been to the dentist, I wouldn't be sitting here. Okay, I'd be flat on my back because me and the dentist, we don't get along. Not at all. We do not get along.
Understood.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, again, it's great to have you both with us. And we've got a lot to talk about. And when we started doing Black Music Month 5 or 6 years ago, we started bringing in all kinds of music legends. And I don't have to tell you who they are because you know we've had some great people on the network. You guys bring a different kind of slant to it, if you will, because you're not, Ray, you're not actually a singer, I guess, right?
No, I'm not.
You're a musician.
Yes, correct.
But you still bring it. You still bring it. And you guys have had some music on television that I have seen that goes way back. You have your rendition of everything. I don't think there's anything that you cannot touch. Is there?
No, I'm not.
See?
No, I agree with that.
Okay.
Well, I'll say that the career has spanned decades, and I've had a lot of great situations and productions on TV, but also before that, I as a music producer, arranger, and pianist, I had a great recording career in the New York session scene where I was recording records with Nick Ashford, Valerie Simpson, Diana Ross, Shaka Khan, Teddy Pendergrass, and doing the whole world in that wonderful scene in New York where we were just recording records every day.
Oh my God.
And all of that was before I got into television. I got in television kind of during that time. My first television job was with Saturday Night Live during the Eddie Murphy years. How about that?
Oh, really?
Oh, wow.
Kind of hit me a little bit, all right. But when Eddie Murphy was doing the show, I was doing the show. And then after that, I came to the Apollo and started my many years of the Ray Chew and the crew with Showtime at the Apollo and Steve Harvey and that's when we met.
Well, we knew each other before, but that's when we got together.
Right.
Oh, really? Okay.
He was the music exec over at Epic. They used to approve my budgets and stuff.
or not.
Very, very
And
important.
not approve the budget, yes. Or not. Right.
And after that, I was like, well, she's kind of cute. Maybe if I date her, then maybe
I'll
my
approve your
budget will go through.
Right. Okay.
You know that.
Oh
And
my
that was
God.
24 years ago.
How many years ago?
24.
24 years ago.
Yes.
Oh my God. And it seems like yesterday, right? Seems like yesterday. So the two of you have had the auspicious opportunities to work with Ashford and Simpson, Apollo. You're at Carnegie Hall, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Carnegie Hall.
Is it true what they say? Practice, practice, practice.
Yeah.
How do you get to Carnegie Hall?
Yeah.
Musicians joke.
Well, but you know what? The truth is, you can practice all you want. It ain't getting you in the Carnegie Hall.
That's true.
You have to find. It was a wonderful relationship that brought us in, and the two of us, they really wanted to do something. They wanted to do something different and diversify their audience and the supporters and the whole programming and they brought us on to do that. So we had a mission to do, and it was a tremendous undertaking. But the relationship has been about 10 years there, and we've been doing some really good works, and they're now looking to expand upon that. And so we're very happy with our work at Carnegie Hall.
That's incredible.
So you guys do live in New York or LA?
We are both. Yeah, we are
okay.
folks. But the New York is the blood. We grew, we both grew up and were raised in New York, so that don't leave us.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, she tells me wherever I'm at, that's where I'm at. Now she has a different take on that. For me, I'm like, wherever I'm at, that's where I'm at.
Yeah. Okay.
I did that real quick in life.
Right.
So if we had to move all this to Mars, I'd be on Mars. And
Right.
Well, whatever it takes. Yeah.
Yeah. Whatever it takes. Whatever it takes. So you actually, when you're on set for Dancing with the Stars, you're actually living in LA.
That's correct.
Okay. And then when you're at Carnegie Hall, you're living in New York.
Correct.
Oh, that's some woo-hoo-hoo. Okay. Okay. That's for the love of the music. That's for the love of the music.
And then you throw a pandemic in that, and you can be anywhere that you need to be because of it.
Yeah. So how did you do? Speaking of the pandemic, how did you do? How were you able to do what you needed to do? You couldn't bring your group together, your orchestra. You couldn't bring all of those musical instruments together. So what did you do? Did you just go on hiatus? Did you just do it over Zoom like we do everything else? Or what did your musical talents do during the pandemic?
you know what? We figured it out, and we found ourselves in Los Angeles during lockdown. So that was in March. And then Ray started getting phone calls from some of his brothers and sisters in the music industry and as musicians talking about, what are we going to do? We can't tour, we can't gig, we can't do sessions anymore. And so out of that developed a program that I produced for Ray called Ray Chew Live. And it was 4 weeks on Facebook. And we joined forces with the AFM, which is the American Federation of Musicians. And it became a fundraiser for our musician community of gig workers who saw themselves out of work. And we were able to raise tens of thousands of dollars that was distributed to people like ourselves in our community in the music industry. And we were able to help others. So that was the first thing we did. And then once we sort of got our groove in this digital space, we started producing events digitally. So it never really stopped for us. We were very, very blessed on that, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. And in answer to your other part, the shows that I've been doing, they, in particular, Dancing with the Stars, what we did was we separated the production. So while you normally see everything happening in the ballroom and everybody, all the participants in the ballroom, what they did was they just spread the deck. And we were in another studio and the ballroom was there, and then they had things in different places, but it all came together live.
So they still had people dancing during that time?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't watch the
wanna
program,
say-
so I will now,
Yeah.
but I never watched the program, so.
I
But
believe,
Extremely strict COVID guidelines that everybody followed. So it was completely safe and they made it work.
Are you guys, you may not want to answer this, are you guys vaccinated?
We're safe.
Okay.
I'll answer it. I'm good.
So it is, I am.
Yeah,
Right?
I don't know. I'm not sure why, and I'm seeing the reluctance of some people to answer that question. I'm like, hey, you know what? This is the world we're in.
yeah.
Let's get to it. It's just
It is
it's
what
just
it
that.
is. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Let's keep it simple. Get the vaccination, and if you don't feel like it, then don't get it. But I'm quick on the answer. I'm not. Is you vaccinated? Yeah, I'm vaccinated.
Yeah.
And I understand people's hesitance to answer. I understand people's hesitance to get. I was hesitant to get the vaccine. I'm in Dallas, and I was hesitant, and I was pretty. Yeah, I'm not going to do it, and not for any political
reason.
It's just
Right,
I'm
right.
just anti-medicine, drugs. I don't take things unless I absolutely have. I don't get flu shots or any of that. So I wasn't really planning on doing it. But everybody else in the family was doing it, my wife's family, and everybody was doing it. Then they dropped the mask mandate. I'm saying, all right, go ahead, give me a shot. I'm good. So I'm glad I did. I don't try to talk anybody into it. I don't try to talk anybody out of it. Just talk to a good friend of mine today. He's not getting it, even though his wife passed from COVID. He's not getting it. Yeah, Pat, my guitar player.
Oh, yeah, that's right, Pat.
Yeah.
And he's not getting it?
No, he's not getting it. So
What's wrong with
okay.
him?
What?
Oh, my God.
It's people.
You know what? I think it's part of our social responsibility, and it's a conversation that Ray and I had, and we made the decision that it was that. And then, like Ray said, it's a whole new world, and you could be very socially handicapped if you do not.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So to answer your question, the Chews are vaxxed.
Okay.
And these two hosts, in a minute, we will be. I got my first one yesterday. And I went to Pasadena. Yeah, I went to Pasadena and got it done. And I thought I was a little woozy. And Ken and I talked about it. Maybe it was psychosomatic. I don't know. But I did go to urgent care just to make sure. And I slept hard. I took some CBD. And Dr. Orkay, who's one of our hosts, he's on here now. He's going to be so happy when he hears that. I got the first vaccine because I, like Ken, I have not had a vaccine or anything even close to it in almost 60 years. So for me to go get something like that, I don't think so. They had to hold me down anyway. So yeah, they had to hold me down. So, and the last time I got something, I got the sugar cube. You guys are not old enough to know about the sugar cube, but I got the
The
sugar
polio
cube.
vaccine back in
Yeah,
the
they used to put
50s.
vaccines in sugar cubes, and they
Mhm.
gave it to us in a little cup.
What?
And we took it, chewed it, and went on home. That was it. We didn't go through the needle thing. So we did little sugar cubes. And every year before we went to school, we got the little sugar cube. And I said to the nurse yesterday, I said, why don't you guys do this in a sugar cube? Make it simple.
Because everybody's diabetic now. That's why.
Exactly. Yeah. Everybody's diabetic.
So
Well,
Ray,
they have and I'll move off the subject, but I hear a lot of the conspiracy theories, right?
Oh my God.
That this is some kind of gigantic conspiracy.
Yeah.
Well, half of the world is conspiracy. I mean, come on, money's conspiracy. Everything you talk about, with the definitions, conspiracy is when entities come together and they ratify and design with a ratification and design. Okay, cool. Well, everything we deal with has some kind of
theory, yeah.
Well, I watched somebody.
And then I was going to say, finally, with regard to the conspiracy theory, and then this has got something to do with 5G. I'm like, well, you know what? It's working. So sign me up. Let's go.
I'm still, and then I told a friend of mine, unless I grow some genitalia on my head, I'm
yeah. And even with that, I'll be like, okay, that's how we go. That's how we're doing it.
Okay, it's something new.
And I watched something the other day. A friend of mine sent me, and he's all conspiracy in the whole bit. And I said, and I watched it. It was a YouTube video. I'm like, so I'm supposed to believe you?
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Everybody, I'm supposed to believe you because you're on YouTube and
right.
You said it.
I'm supposed to.
All the experts and all. Again, we've got several shows with doctors. Again, we got Dr. OK on, and he's very pro-vaccine. So I'm supposed to believe this YouTube guy. So
yeah,
he's Dr. OK.
Yeah, don't believe the doctors and the scientists. Believe the YouTube guy.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
The influencer.
Yeah. Okay.
So
may I say something?
Sure. Go ahead.
Sure.
It is a race between going to Google University or Facebook College.
Yes.
Yep.
Exactly.
That's a good one.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. Well, I ain't going to YouTube college. Okay. I'm not doing that. So, Dr. Orkay, I know you want to throw me a high five. Yep, I got the first vaccine yesterday. So
you
I'm
did?
good.
Then you got this one. Easy happy dance.
See, we're dancing with the stars right here.
How do you feel?
I felt woozy a little bit yesterday. I didn't know if it was psychosomatic or if it was, but I'm good. I slept hard. I took some CBD. I rubbed down CBD this morning. I'm really good. My daughter wants to know, how are you? I'm good. I'm really good. I really am. I'm
now,
good.
Psychosocially and mentally, how do you feel? Why did you take the vaccine and how do you feel?
I think I've had some brain fog, but Ray and Vivian Chew are here, which sparks me. So I'm feeling real good. My brain is intact. Everything is intact. So I don't have any hesitation. In fact, after it, I felt great. I felt, wow, this is great. I'm good. I'm really good. I'm really good. I did get that cotton mouth thing, dry mouth. I did get that, but it's gone. It's gone. So I'm good. I'm good.
And lastly, why did you take the vaccine?
I feel the same way Ray and Vivian feel. It's really, I want to say it's our responsibility. It's a responsibility. We've never seen anything like this before. And I felt compelled almost to do it, although I don't take vaccines, I don't take medicine, it takes me 2 years to use a bottle of Tylenol. So I don't take medicine, I don't get into the vaccines, but I feel a sense of responsibility. So I'm going to be traveling, I'm going to Dallas. It's something that I felt I should go ahead and get done. So I'm doing it. I did it. Thank you, Dr. Orkay.
So Ray, was it an easy transition moving from session work in New York to the television studios in LA?
No, it was not easy. I had to really design a dream and a path myself. You know, I mean, I guess if, if God is the ultimate, designer of all that, then, you order your steps and you find a way to, create a path, or he'll create a path, however you want to see that. But I wanted to get into more television work. And so I basically just came out here and started, knocking on doors and making calls and, trying to say, hey, here I'm over here. And I got one little, I won't say little, but I got involved, started, it was huge.
It was huge.
One of my first specials was, I started working with BET. And my first special was the BET Celebration of Gospel. And then I started doing that. And then I started doing the BET Awards. And then, those were annuals. Then I did the BET Honors. And and those three were going. And then I did the BET's Sunday Best. Yeah. And then I think, and then this was going on for multiples of years. And then finally, I had an agent. I was like, hey, can somebody, can you see me over here? I think I'm doing enough stuff. Come on, give me let me talk to ABC, somebody, and then finally, and I'm going to credit him, Ron Fair, who's a music maker. He brought me to meet Jimmy Iovine, who brought me in to American Idol. And that really kind of, kicked the door open with my work with major networks. And so American Idol, that would be, I'd actually done a series before that called The Singing Bee, but it was short-lived. It did like one season. But then I started American Idol, and then that really kind of, Singing Bee, that was an NBC show. But American Idol really kind of kicked the door, further open. And I really started doing that and working with a lot more stuff.
Now, I know a lot of young musicians out there, particularly young musicians in our community, think it's, you're working with the major networks and things like that. A lot of young cats think, I'll never do that. There's this glass ceiling, this glass door. I'll never get into there. I'll never get into that. So they just keep doing what they're doing. What's your take on that? What would you tell young musicians who are aspiring to do that sort of work? What is the thing that got you into the door?
Well, I would say the first thing I would say is take that word out your vocabulary. Never. All right. Yeah, absolutely. I don't use that word. I was going to say I'd never use the word never, but I don't use the word never.
Yeah, never say never.
Anything associated with my aspirations. I will say that I haven't done it thus far. If there's something I aspire to do, I would say, well, I might have not done it thus far, but then, like I said, the perseverance, that's the turtle winning that race, against the rabbit. He's running steady. The rabbit's doing what he's doing, and before you know it, the turtle's over that line. Right. And so I think that anybody aspiring to do things that they haven't done before, then you also have to look at this. Look at Tyler Perry. Tyler Perry tells his wonderful story that is totally contrary to any of the conventional paths that you might. Yeah. In fact, at one time, his statements was that Hollywood doesn't even see me. That's right. Well, they see him now, don't they?
Yeah. So they're looking at him now. Yeah.
Right. But he actually said, Hollywood they don't get me, right? And so I would say that anybody aspiring to do things, young musicians, just keep going at it. Find another door. The door that you're trying to get through, if it ain't opening for you, then go find another door. If people if people are not seeing you, they ain't feeling you, then talk to some other people.
If I can add on to that, that's one of the reasons why Ray and I started our foundation, which is called Power to Inspire. And it's been up and running. It's a 501c3 since 2013. And last year, we started our inaugural summer internship mentorship program where we hosted 25 young people virtually, 24 from the US, 1 from the UK, who aspire to be in the industry. And we have 3 different lanes: singer-songwriter, musician-producer, and music industry. And we had 75 mentors from all around the world for 4 weeks come and mentor them. And they branched off and did their internship programs. And we're gearing up again this summer. This time we have almost 60. And we
Wow.
have people from the US, the UK, Ghana, Haiti, Jamaica, and all the way to New Delhi, India.
Wow.
And specifically for Black and brown children so that they can, one of the
This
terms this year, yes, one of the terms that Ray uses so often that I love is, you can have all the talents in the world, but if you don't have opportunity and access, that's really what you need. So we give them knowledge and then we give them opportunity and access.
That's
And
absolutely
what was the name of the organization again?
fantastic.
Make sure the
It's
listeners
called
hear.
Power, the number 2, Inspire. And our web, powertoinspire.org.
Powertoinspire.org. I'm going to
Yeah.
remember that because I've worked in education for 2 decades. Even though during the time I was working in education, my husband and I ran one of the largest commercial printing companies in LA. And I was awarded a $1 million mentor protege business concept in part because of the collaboration between my husband and I. We ran a very successful commercial printing business. And I think one of the things that people see in couples such as yourselves is that for most people, it doesn't work. And when you find 2 people who are in fact husband and wife and they're a team and they make everything work and they make it look good, it's an added piece. It's an added element, an added dynamic. And it makes things look so good and almost like, wow, this is magic and it can be done. Because the myth is that family members don't work together well. Ken and I are brother and sister. And yeah, we're brother and sister. And we're the only brother and
But
sister.
we're in different states, so it works. I mean,
Shut up. And guess what? I'm the oldest, but he thinks he's in charge.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure.
Yes. So
now,
it
was that
works.
Power to Inspire?
Yes.
Power
Power
to,
number 2,
Oh,
Inspire.
okay.
.org.
Power to Inspire. Great. And we're going to put that on our website. But one of the things that I wanted to ask you, if you don't mind me calling you Vivian, one of the things, okay, that I wanted to ask you is, you are, based on my reading, you put the wheels, you get them turning. You bring a lot of action and you know where to go. You know whose door to knock on. And I consider myself one of those people who is out there knocking on doors also. And I feel like you just got to get it done. You do whatever it takes to get it done. How do you get all of these things done? You've done some phenomenal work. You and Ray have done some phenomenal work together. And correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think there's another team in entertainment like the 2 of you. Am I wrong?
I'm sure that there are other husband and wife teams that work together and love together. I think that, I'm a Black woman and, our mothers and our grandmothers, we just got it done. And so it's in my DNA just to get it done. And Ray and I are not only business partners and husband and wife, but we're also, this is my best friend. This is my dude. This is my ride or die. And we don't always agree, but we know how to keep our personal life and our professional life separate. We have a mutual respect for each other's opinions.
Mm-hmm.
He's got amazing strengths that I do not. And I think he would agree it's the same vice versa. But when we come together, we come together as 2 whole people, not as 2 halves trying to be one. We are 2 whole people.
Yes.
And there we go. I think that's what makes it work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, what comes to my mind, and I'm not sure, Vivian, if you're musically inclined, but I just
not at all. I can't even hum in key. Trust me.
but as a Black power couple in the industry, I'm reminded of someone you mentioned, Nick and Val Ashford. I mean, what they did for so many years.
Power couple.
Some of my favorite artists of all times. And,
yes.
And
can we play some of their music? Yes.
Well, no, we don't have ASCAP. Don't get in trouble with ASCAP.
Yeah.
And when you play their music, you're hearing him. So it's
is that right?
Is that right?
Absolutely.
Oh man. Well, Ray's sitting here. Can we play it?
No.
Big Brother said we are not
Big
paying
Brother,
those licenses
yeah.
fees.
Yeah,
So-
exactly. Yes.
I've had some YouTube videos flagged because I did play a couple. We had Lenny Williams on, we had Peebo Bryson and some folks, and I played a little bit. And some of my videos have been flagged for that, so I'm not messing with it. But I'd love to play something. But
Just tell them to call me. Tell them to call me. I'll handle
those
it.
so no, and I say that with all the greatest respect in the world, and because particularly since where we are today as a people, we have we have 80% of Black babies being born out of wedlock, and a lot of young Black people not getting married and things like that. And to see a couple such as yourself is truly inspiring, and a major kudos to the both of you. And we really want everybody, all of our people, watching it to know that it can be done. And you guys are truly an inspiration to all people.
Yeah, thank you.
And I have to go back to where I know you from, and I know you, the two of you, from Dancing with the Stars, but you've done so much alongside of Dancing with the Stars, Carnegie Hall, BET, at the Apollo. How do you pull all that together? Because Dancing with the Stars is a different genre altogether, and I don't even know where to place that. But Dancing with the Stars is different, then BET is different, then Showtime at the Apollo is different. So how do you pull all that together? That's phenomenal. How do you do that, Vivian?
Ray.
But the first thing is, I stay hungry. So if you're hungry enough, you find a way to, to make a meal out of an apple and an egg and a piece of salmon. And
Yeah.
you find a way to make that work. Stir it up and you got a meal. So I think I do my meal of life has kind of been that way. If somebody's speaking to me and asks me, hey, listen, can you do some music for for this and that? I'm like, yeah, I can do that.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's go figure out how to do it.
Yeah.
And then some things that I aspire to do and I love doing, and I have to go get, and some things have been coming to me, and for the purpose of me doing what I do. I think that I've been able to build and brand myself as somebody who not only makes music but delivers music for others, in support of some really great artists. I've worked with Aretha Franklin and people like that, and Anita Baker, and folks like that, and Alicia Keys, and and I've had opportunity to really kind of brand myself as somebody who knows how to who they entrust their music to, and they can deliver at that level. And so that's what I build upon.
That's great. And you've got, to your credit, so much more than we have time to talk about this afternoon. We were hoping we'd have you for 2 hours, but we'll bring you back again.
Yeah.
But my next question, and when I was telling
wait a minute, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I just clicked on your Ray Chew live show series. Ray Chew with Chick Corea, Marcus Miller.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. See, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about.
Chick was one of my favorites, man. Listen to Chick from way back. And then,
loved him, man. Great guy. Great guy. And of course, he's on that mountain of great musicians.
Yeah. And when we started doing Black Music Month, we had to come up with the great musicians, the great people who make music what it is, who bring real music. And nowadays, unfortunately, music is not what it used to be. And it's so painful to hear where it has gone. And it puts us in a position where we're like, as we said in the very beginning, we grew up at a time when music was really music. It really was music. And wow, Chick Corea, look at that. Oh my God.
Dionne Warwick, Kenny Lattimore, Robin Thicke.
Wow. Incredible. And the other thing, and I have to say it this way, there are folks now who claim to be in the music business, don't know anything about these people here. They don't know anything about those people. They don't know anything about Chick Corea. They don't know anything about the people that are on your episodes. They've never heard of it.
Yeah.
So when they decide to make whatever it is that they make, and I refuse to call it music, it's what they do. It has nothing to do with what the groundwork that you have laid.
Yeah.
And those people who are legendary, and we've had some great legends on this broadcast. We've had some great legends. You cannot compare what you might hear today to what they did. I would never put you on the same stage with something that I won't even name names. There's no way in the world. There's just no way. There's no comparison. There's just no comparison. And we have said that for years that music is a healing force. Music is a healing force. What do you call this stuff that's out now? What would you call that? Vivian, Ray, what would you call that?
Yeah, well, I'll take it. You know what? I think it's just different because and through our young people that we mentor, I've discovered such really good music that's coming out. And I think, it's almost like, it's a roller coaster ride. We went through music being really track oriented and we've lost the bands. There are no Earth, Wind and Fires. There's no Isleys. There's no, but I think if I could sit at the feet of my grandmother and I said to her, "Oh, you got to hear this band called Sly and the Family Stone," she would have said, "That's not real music." So I think it's very cyclical. And, Ray and I are, one of the things that we do with the young people that we mentor is we make sure they know whose shoulders they've stood on. And so this summer, one of the things that we're doing is a case study on the 50th anniversary of that beautiful masterpiece, Marvin Gaye's What's Going On.
Oh, yeah.
Time and to dissect that for our singers and songwriters, how Marvin 50 years ago was so prophetic with what he was talking about. That's happening right now, and the musicians, and who were the Funk Brothers, and that band that played for every single Motown hit. And for our music industry kids, if you had to market and promote that project right now, how would you do it? So we're bringing what we know into what's current to help them to learn and understand. Yeah. Yeah, and I wanted to, comment to one of the things that you mentioned. The music isn't what it used to be. Well, that's true, and it'll never be what it used to be. It just is what it is now, right? And yes, the young people, and I think each decade or each period has its own golden age. When you look back, you go back to the 30s, the 40s. Well, that's the golden age of swing, and that was the popular music then. Swing and jazz. Through the 40s, that's what the kids were out dancing to, right? And then you got the 50s, you had the doo-wop era and all that. That was, an early rock and roll. That was kind of a golden age of that. And everybody was kind of doing that. And you had the 60s, the golden age and the Motown era. And then everybody's, well, it'll never happen again. Well, in the 70s, you had a thing happening there. And then, okay, then here comes the 80s and with their golden age. And then all of a sudden, hip hop, the word hip hop, now that wasn't even a word until, Sugar Hill Gang and somebody else and Melly Mel and all them, all these guys putting that stuff together. And now born out of that is not only a genre, but a genre that's not only driving our industry, but it's driving industries. It's driving the entire world. Whoa, and who would have thought that? Like she said, going back to, that's not real music. Well, I tell you what, you can call whatever you want. It's real. How about that? It's just real. It's here. It's real. It's just real, whatever you want to call it. And yes, and we hope to inspire the next generation of people doing real within the world they're living in. And here we go,
So let me ask this, with your organization, Power to Inspire, if you have young kids, young people today who are aspiring to be in the music industry and want to be involved in that. Do they go on the website, send you a resume, or fill out an application or something? How does that piece work?
Yeah, we've been running, this is our second year doing our summer program. It starts on July 9th and it goes for 4 weeks. We already have our participants for this year, but through the year, Ray and I do other things. We do master classes. I mean, we're always mentoring someone. There's always somebody who's sending us an email saying, you know, we know who you are, and we just need the opportunity and the access to talk to you. So we do a lot of that apart from our summer program, but our summer program has become our crown jewel. What I will say is Ray and I are really, really good on returning emails. So anybody, the information is right on our website, you know, we will, and we personally, it's not an assistant, we personally respond to each one.
So the students that are in the program, the summer program, what age level? What age level are they?
They're 18 to 24, although we made some exceptions. We had a 17-year-old who we just saw so much in that we had to do. And our young lady from India is actually right on the cusp. She's about to be 25, but we let her in because she's a superstar and someone who her entire family was ravaged with COVID. You know, COVID was a horrible thing in India, and she was just out of it. And she said when she heard about our program, it was one of the things that helped her heal. She wanted to get better so that she could be a part of our program. So that was just such a blessing for us.
Wow.
Oh, at 66, I guess I'm a little bit past the
yeah, just a little bit. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. Not much.
Missed it by that much.
Right. Missed it by that much. Right. So with the program, and as you said, you do have programs that you're running throughout the year. How do you have time for anything else with what you're doing and the programs? How do you find time?
We balance. You know, I think in your life, it's about balance.
Yeah,
Ray's definitely the balancer. And he's very much my teacher. You know, I really, whether he realizes it a lot or not, I really sit and I watch how he takes his day. And it always starts off with his moment of just quiet and centering and connecting with God and hearing what that purpose is. And then he hits the ground running and he's off. I'm a whimsical. And I'm the juggler of many things at one time. And, you know, it works. You know, what I can't do, I pass the baton to him. He'll pass it to me. We have a great team of people that we could not do what we do if they were not, you know, a part of our team. And
it is, it's teamwork. I'll tell you, she's exactly right, just in the description of who we are. So we'll have a plate or a table full of 10 items. And we'll divide, or let's say she's got 10 and I got 10. I'll get through these items one at a time. She gets through, she juggles, she throws all 10 up, and she's
exactly
at the same time. You know, 2 phones in one hand, you know, down in the other with the foot, you know. Oh yeah. She's doing them all at the same time. I'm like, well, I can't do that. That's not the way I work.
But we both get them done.
That's right.
Getting it done is key. Yeah.
And I'm gonna share a funny story with you that she don't even know I'm gonna tell you. So, you know, that's just how teamwork works. Here's teamwork. We were somewhere doing an event, and we had this rental car, and so our flight is like 7 in. So we try to we get to the airport like 5 something, trying to return this car. This was out in Ohio somewhere. And then, whatever happened, the regular car rental place was not, it was under construction, or there was construction at the airport, and they moved it to some remote place, and they had signs, go here, go there, go there. And so at 5 in, it was still dark out. So I'm driving and I'm like, okay, it says go here. So I turn there and said, okay, and I go another mile, so turn there. I'm like, what's going on? Then we wound up doing this dance for about 20 minutes. So I'm like, you know what? I'm getting tired of this. So I put, the next, it's like we were driving in circles, you know, and going from sign to sign, and like my patience was up.
Yeah.
So I pull the car up to the front end, and I said, I'm getting out. I'm leaving the car right here. All right, they'll find the car.
And
right,
They'll find it.
I'm not. And she took the car. And she's like, I don't know how she found the damn thing. I was like, I'm glad you did, because I was done. They can find that. They can find that car, talk, whatever, you know. And but she found it.
That's us. I mean,
That's us. That's us. Yes, that's us. And you know what? That is the way it goes. And never in a trillion years would I ever say that it can't be done. I have tossed out those words: can't, wouldn't, shouldn't, couldn't, didn't, don't, no, won't, never. I toss those out. So I'm not the kind of person that says, well, I just can't. I'm not that person. And just as you said, Ray, Vivian can juggle all 10 items. God made women, okay, from the man. And because God knew that God developed that, created that man to do what he was supposed to do, and that's what men do. He created women because we multiply everything.
He created women to clean up after our messes. When you screw it up,
but you said something real important. You said that God created the woman from the man. See, I told you. I told you that's what happened. I told you that's what happened. She didn't believe me.
It's that rib theory.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, exactly.
I said
That's
that,
true.
and you didn't believe me.
It's just, and you know what? It's just what we do. It's just what we do. You got men won't see it, but we see it right there. How come you don't see it?
That's true.
That's the way things are. It's just the way it is.
You guys, I just went ahead and donated $100 to your foundation.
Oh, wow.
In the name of the network. So
thank you so much. You have that $100 means so much. Thank you.
Well, thank you for doing what you're doing. So
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. When Dancing with the Stars gets back on, and I've always wondered, how do people get into Dancing with the Stars? So before we let you guys go, you got 15 minutes. How does one get onto Dancing with the Stars? I used to be a very good dancer. I am an excellent dancer, even at my age. Because, you know, folks at my age think that we're old, but I'm the new 40. So I still know how to party hardy. So how do people get in to be in the audience?
Oh, in the audience. Well, you're right, because that's one of the hot tickets in LA, you know, and everybody, and when they come to the show, they get dressed up in tuxes and all that. I'm like, wow. So yeah. And I get calls from people in the industry. Ray, can you get me tickets? You know, people who draw the show. I'm like, wow, okay.
And then people pretend like they're my friends.
Yeah.
Because I can get them tickets.
Right.
Yeah.
So the answer is, you know, and I don't want to say it publicly, but slip us a note and we'll
take care of you.
We'll take care of you. But I don't know about other people. That's
exactly. Yeah. Right. Well, I know
we got the hookup. So
right.
You got the hookup.
Got the hookup.
Hooking everybody up. Can't hook everybody up.
Everybody can't be your play coach.
Right.
Everybody can't be. That's right. Everybody can't be. And funny that you say got the hookup. Kenny Hendrix, those are two words that he does not like. Hook up. He does not work.
Everybody wants to hook up. Everybody wants to hook up. Hey man, can you do this? Can you do that? Can you do that?
Yeah.
And I'm a musician too, Ray. I'll tell you a story.
What's your instrument?
Well, I played drums all my life, and I ended up with spinal stenosis in the neck, and I had artificial disc in the neck and messed up this arm. And so then I started playing harmonica. I played a little bit of keys and things like that. So
show them your wall. Show them your wall.
I did a gig with a good friend of mine, killer singer. This was probably 15, 20 years ago. Talking about the hookup, and she found a guy to video. It was an opening of a blues club here in Dallas. My thing is not responding. Opening of a blues club here in Dallas. And she hired this guy to do the video of it. And we absolutely killed it. I mean, people were jumping up and down. It was great. And so when I called her about a week later to say, hey, has the guy given you the video yet? And she said, not yet. And so we went through that for a few days. And I finally called her and she said, yeah, I got the video. And I said, well, what's wrong? She said, it was absolutely terrible. The sound was just when I was doing it with Melba. Sound was terrible. Everything was off. I said, what happened? And she called the guy. What happened? You know what he said, told her? If I'd have known you guys were that good, I would have done a better job.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't deal with people like that.
Yeah. That's just right.
I don't even know him. And you know what? You don't want to know him again.
No. Never. If we were better, if he didn't know we were that good, he would have done a better job.
Yeah. Well, that means he don't really have a better job to do.
No, he doesn't. No.
Yeah.
So that's why.
I tell you, I'll share with you, and what I do, I have one job to do, and that's just good, excellent, and great. That's my window, and you get the maximum effort out of everything I do. You know, there's only one level of delivery. That's it. There's no, and it doesn't depend on the rate. So I don't have a half off rate where you get half inch.
Right,
exactly.
It's one, whatever I do at whatever rate, it's the same.
And that's the way it should be. And that's why when people talk about the hookup and stuff like that, it's like, no, I don't want the hookup. Charge me your rate and give me an excellent job. I will pay you what the going rate is. I don't want you to cut me a deal, cut anything. I want the highest you can give me. So that's my story about that.
And in a lot of cases, especially unfortunately in our community, the hookup always comes with a cost.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. A lot of and I shouldn't say always, but a lot of the time it comes with a cost that you don't even know is there.
But you know what? I want to tell you, just in spending so much time with this whole new crew of young people, these 18 to 24, they are about their bag. They are not about hookups. They are about, you are going to pay me. This is a business arrangement. Yes, we are friends. And it's really refreshing to see the way that they handle their business now.
Good.
And, also, and I want to kind of, I guess this kind of side definitions, or of the hookup. When I'm thinking of hookup, I mean, if I call you and you're able to make, an arrangement, with something.
Sure.
I'm not calling you to say, hey, listen, can you do something
Half
off?
Yeah.
Don't call me for
yeah.
But there's just a difference in approach at the professional level. People like yourselves and us. You call me to say, hey, can you help facilitate something? That's one thing. And you know what? There's the only cost is the energy it takes for you to pick up the phone. If I respect you and you respect me, we're good.
Yeah.
Right. So how long do you think you'll be with Dancing with the Stars? I know you call the shots. So how long do you think?
I tell you what, I love the show, and I'm gonna ride that one until I have to, until they have to roll me up there.
Till the cops come on.
I have a similar story, and I'll share this with you. She knows this. When 8 years ago, and it's probably about 8 or 9 years ago, the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, which is the longest running and probably the biggest parade. They had the music director and producer's name was Milt DeLug, and he had done the show for 50 years. 50 years. Now, people ask, what do you do as music director for the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade? In a quick summary, I'll say it's the broadcast of the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. The parade occurs, but we broadcast music all throughout, and we play the music that you see that accompanies all of the balloons and floats and goes to commercial and starts the show, the big theme and the blah, blah, blah. There's 164 pieces of pre-recorded music that accompanies that parade that you hear when you watch the show on NBC. Now, I have to do all that work, and there was a gentleman, Milt DeLug, who was producing that music for 50 years. And the purpose of me telling the story is that he was 93, and then he had let the producers know that it was going to be his final year doing it, and so they brought me in and I met him, really wonderful guy. He kind of showed me how he was doing things. He gave me his blessings, and then he turned the baton over to me and said, "Hey, now this is yours." And I said, "Thank you very much." And I started doing the show. He passed away the very next year. Okay,
Oh, wow.
but the story in relation to what we were saying was that we should all be as wonderfully blessed that we could work at something you love to age 93 and still be doing it. And there wasn't wheeling him into the studio. He was walking and joking and he was vibrant. And so, yes, I would love to be 93
doing Dancing with the Stars.
Doing be like, oh, look at old man
the Apollo.
up there, I'm fine. I'm 93.
Yeah, I'm still good. I'm still going to horn. Yeah.
You can call me old.
Yeah.
Can't call me that now, but
Okay, that's right. But you've got a career. The two of you have these phenomenal careers. Is it in the music business or is it in the entertainment industry?
I would say, well, music as part of entertainment. We've been so blessed. My background is in working at record companies. I used to work at ASCAP.
Okay, never mind.
Never mind. African American female membership rep, and I started the ASCAP Rhythm and Soul Awards, which is going into its 34th year this year.
Really?
So I'm very, very proud of that. And from there, I've done international marketing with my own company, Time Zone International. And then when Ray and I got together, we developed True Entertainment. And out of that came so many blessings. And Kenny, we're actually going to be in Dallas. We are doing a show at the Dallas Symphony. It was to be this year. It got postponed to next year. And we're doing the music of Stevie Wonder. So,
oh my God,
really?
So are you doing that in Dallas?
It's going to be we're doing Dallas next year. This year, August 15th, we're doing it at the San Diego Symphony.
So you got to hook them up with some tickets.
We got to hook up.
That kind of hook up. Absolutely. Absolutely, yes. I would love that.
That's when the hookup works, okay? That's when the hookup works.
And I do have a tux I can pull out with the mothballs,
Come join us.
Absolutely. So, but again, the two of you are phenomenal. And because we're so musically inclined, because we put a lot of energy and honor, real honor, into Black Music Month, you've done phenomenal work. You've done phenomenal work, and it will continue because of who you are, really because of who you are and what you bring to the music industry. And Ray is a musician, and I need to know the difference between a musician and a singer. What's the difference? Can a singer be a musician and a musician be a singer? Can it be?
Yeah. I call singers musicians. I think, you're making music, you're of music, you're about music, you're a musician, and I think they're one and the same. Now, all musicians aren't singers,
right?
But singers are musicians.
Yeah, they're that instrument, their voice.
Right.
So voice is the instrument, exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. So Quincy Jones does not sing. He's Quincy doesn't sing
on a couple of things, but he's like myself. He doesn't, but he's a music maker.
Yeah. Okay, he's a music
and also he's the standard bearer. He's Quincy Jones.
Yeah.
I think you say Quincy
Jones. That's it right there.
Yeah, he set the standard for many years and many generations to come.
When you're called by just one name,
Quincy,
he's Quincy, and you know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
And when you have a name like Quincy and it becomes cool to be Quincy.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
Nobody wanted to be Quincy in school, but now if you're
it's cool, right?
Yeah, just like when they had the Jacksons. How many babies came out named Jermaine?
Yeah, Michael. Yeah, right? Tons of them. Exactly.
Nobody named the kid Tito though. I'm not.
Oh yeah, probably not.
I bet you there were some Tito's. I
Oh,
bet
There
you.
may have been,
Okay.
yeah, a few here and there that we just didn't hear about.
Okay.
Yeah. But with Quincy Jones, with Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, and Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis did something recently with I believe it was on what's the name of that show? Tamron Hall.
Mhm.
And she featured Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. They're phenomenal also.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. They're not singers. So
Right.
they do the same thing. They're composers, they're
Producers.
Yeah.
they're musicians.
Yeah.
Right.
Kenny Babyface Edmonds. Now he's a singer.
Yeah.
So okay.
And they did something together. Did you see their project that they did together? Jimmy Jam
Yes,
and
I
Terry.
did. Yes, I sure did.
Yeah.
Yes, I sure did. I did see that. Yes. So, you know what? As I said before, there's so much talent and the blessings that we have in our culture, in our history. You two are part of that. You're legendary. You're absolutely legendary.
And it's been an honor to have you on here.
And we could go on for the next week and a half because this never stops. And you guys are just.
We have to get you back on. We have to get you back on the program. And
thank you for having us. We
Thank you.
appreciate it. We'll see you in Dallas.
Absolutely. So what are you doing next? Is your next big performance in August?
The next
Right.
thing
Was it
is
San Diego? Yeah.
Yeah, San Diego.
San Diego.
And you're in Los Angeles, aren't you?
I'm in LA.
Okay, well, I thought for you, girl. Come on, August
Yeah.
5th. San Diego
Yes.
City. Come join us. I'm going to remind you. I'm going to be looking for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you guys are part of the ITRN family. You're phenomenal. And thank you for being one of our favorite guests on Black Music Month right here on ITRN. It has been an honor and a privilege to have you on. Oh my God, what do you not do? Okay.
Thank you for having us. And thank you so much for supporting our foundation. It means a lot to us.
Oh, no,
Thank you.
Absolutely.
It's a pleasure.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Do something.
God bless.
God bless you
Take
too.
care
And
now.
thank you so
Bye-bye.
much. And we're getting ready to go into Juneteenth and a discussion about Tulsa. So if you feel so inclined and you're not getting back to the grind, listen in because we're doing a lot.
Back to
We'll
the grind.
get back to the grind. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Have a good night. Thank you for
Right.
being with us.
Hey.
Bye-bye.
And that was
Okay,
Vivian
and
and Ray Chew. Phenomenal.
Dancing
folks.
with
And
the
Ray Chew
Stars,
is
Showtime.
the music director for Dancing with the Stars. Here on
Showtime at the Apollo.
intentional
Yes.
Showtime at the Apollo. Did the
BET
music for
Awards.
the Macy's Day Parade.
Yes.
Phenomenal stuff. Has played with Aretha Franklin, Chick Corea. Amazing.
Melba Moore. Just on and on and on. Chick Corea, Melba Moore, Aretha Franklin, and the music with Ashford and Simpson.
Yeah, Ashford and Simpson. Yeah,
Yeah, Ashford and Simpson. So what haven't they done?
amazing.
What haven't they done? Just phenomenal.
Yeah.
Just phenomenal. And we are so blessed to have had them with us. What a great time. And great times are still happening right here on ITRN Radio. We've got with us Professor Amos Jones, who is going to educate us on all things Tulsa on Juneteenth. This man has got a plethora of information. I was telling someone they've got to join the show because I could sit and listen to this man for the next month and I wouldn't get tired. He probably wouldn't get tired of talking. I'd listen because he's got so much information. He graduated cum laude. He has been a fellow. What haven't you done in education? What haven't you done in journalism? You're everywhere. You're absolutely everywhere. The paper that you wrote on Tulsa 2 weeks ago, the people that you interact with, your expert information, you're an expert in all of this information. And it's absolutely phenomenal for you to be with us. And I've talked to Amos about 3 or 4 times, and he goes on to tell me all these things, blowing my mind, just blowing my mind. That's why when I got the vaccine yesterday, I had a little bit of brain fog, not a lot because my mind wasn't left. Because you took it, Amos.
Welcome to the
Good
program.
to be
Amos.
here. Thank you for having me. I'm just excited that you all understand that Juneteenth and Tulsa are 2 matters of contemporary importance, frankly.
Yeah.
And that if we can understand those two aspects of African American development, then we might have a path forward that's informed and that's efficient and that's one of uplift. So thank you for having me tonight. And I support the work of the Intentional Radio Network. And I'm so glad that independent Black media is alive and well and operating now throughout the world.
Well, thank you for that. And one of our taglines is taking control of the narrative. And one of the big issues, one of the reasons most people don't know about Tulsa and Juneteenth is because for many, many years, pretty much since we've been on this continent, we have never controlled the narrative. And we are trying to control that. Not trying to control, we are taking control of the narrative of our own story. Because there's a saying, and you probably know about it, and I'm going to get it wrong. As long as the hunter tells the story, until the lion starts writing books, the story's going to come from the hunter's perspective or something like that. So we've got to start writing our own story, and we're glad that you can be a part of this.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Amos.
And fortunately, our story needs to be represented. I think that it's so easy to forget what we used to know, if you will.
Yeah.
We've had moments in which Black history has come to the fore. Dr. Carter G. Woodson, the father of Black history, as they call him, was really the first person to systematize the study of Black contributions globally to civilization. And he did it basically on a dare from one of his professors, I believe, at Harvard, where he was the second Black person to earn a PhD after Du Bois, and decided, I'm going to devote my life to this area of historical inquiry that's been ignored and really swept aside on purpose in order to maintain a narrative of supremacy, in order to keep some people empowered at the expense of others, Black people. So Carter G. Woodson wrote wonderfully, he founded the Journal of Negro History, which is now more than 100 years old, one of the oldest historical journals in the country. And he also made sure that there was political activity to raise awareness of the academic work being done, to establish Black people within the pantheon of great contributors to the development of civilization and human flourishing. And he focused his work, of course, in the United States, especially as a professor at Howard University, where fortunately he had been aggregated along with people like E. Franklin Frazier, the great sociologist, Alain Locke, the great philosopher, Hansberry, just the great Black mecca of Howard University in the 50s, with Blacks contributing in all fields of endeavor to the advancement of knowledge. That's why Black studies was so late to come to schools like Howard. Black studies was already infused in everything, including biology with Dr. Ernest Everett Just. So there was it was repetitive at a place like Howard to separate out Black studies. And nevertheless, there is an advantage to having done that. So the next wave after the 20s and what he was doing as a scholar up until he died in the 50s, I think 1950, maybe 55, somewhere in there. But after that came the 60s awareness of Black power and about Afrocentric motifs. And that was important too, because it established an answer to the view of general African inferiority. Some of the reasons that we saw some generational divides about how Blacks in the United States reacted to the election of Barack Obama, for example, as president of the United States, were different. Younger Blacks were celebrating for different reasons from older Blacks. Older Blacks remembered when the assumption was that Black people were too dumb to even play basketball. We forget that people thought we were so dumb we couldn't even play sports.
Yeah, but
they thought we were dumb because we were Black. They thought we were Black because we were from Africa. And all of that. So there was a chain of false anthropology related to a flawed sociology, related to a bad theology, all interrelated into white racism and white supremacy as a matter of law, until Dr. King and them came along and forced statutes and constitutional reorganization in a way that we now enjoy. Younger people didn't know anything about that. Younger people were more excited about the fact that barriers to racism and discrimination in spite of the knowledge on the part of majorities of people by now that Blacks could do it, just simply not wanting Blacks to have the power. So that was more of the celebration for before. There was no doubt that we could do it, but there was a view that just people changing their minds enough to give a Black person a chance. That was the thinking. So here we are. And I think Juneteenth is a wonderful place to start because it anchors the story in slavery, but also in transformation. Because Juneteenth, as our viewers probably have heard, is a Freedom Day celebration, Jubilee Day, liberation, emancipation. And it's a holiday that started in Galveston, Texas in 1865 on the announcement by Union Army General Gordon Granger that slaves are free now. Yes, the Emancipation Proclamation had happened 2.5 years earlier, but now, as a result of the victories of the Civil War, slavery was gone from everywhere. People forget that there were exemptions within the Emancipation Proclamation that were sweeping. I mean, it was surgical. Even the Tidewater era of Virginia, for example, that's Hampton Roads, Norfolk, Virginia Beach, Newport News, Williamsburg. That was exempt. Why? Because maybe Blacks would commandeer ships and go back to Africa or whatever. You know, that was the plan of the Denmark-Vesey 1822 slave revolt that was thwarted because of the Black Uncle Tom slave, George Wilson, who told the white people and the master, George Wilson, that was the name of the Tom. So he sold out the Denmark-Vesey rebellion. And that's why Charleston became the most fortified city in America. And the Citadel was founded as a result. So I think the reason that there was an exemption there was that Blacks could easily take those ships and go on to the Caribbean or Africa, which had been contemplated some 40 years earlier. And the need to secure that wonderful port that we are the natural harbor of Hampton Roads for the war effort for the Union. Same with border states like Kentucky, where I'm from. There were other places that were exempted as political commerce. Well, not on Juneteenth. On Juneteenth, it was all over and everybody, all the Black people were now free. And so the celebrations starting in Galveston have been commemorated in various ways across the country, including even in Mexico, the Mascagos people, who are descendants of Black Seminoles, who had escaped from US slavery in 1852 and settled in Mexico, they celebrate Juneteenth. So it's a wonderful holiday, but and it's increasingly recognized, especially after last summer, the long hot summer of 2020, right, where people are really deciding that we've got to anchor the Black American story back in slavery, which was not that long ago, and which we haven't dealt with sufficiently yet, which is why you had Tulsa.
Absolutely.
Can I talk about Tulsa, Sister William? Can I talk about Tulsa? Let's fast forward to 1921, when uppity Negroes in a place not far from Galveston got beat down by a white mob. Isn't it funny how that happens so much? I asked your host the other day on the phone, who's getting assassinated in America? White presidents and Black leaders. Yeah. Think about that. And that's because there's such a need, the way we've established our economic and social order, to keep Black people in their places. Yep. And that's what happened in Tulsa when you had probably the most prosperous Black neighborhood, 7x5 blocks, 35 square blocks in Greenwood, right abutting downtown.
40 blocks,
Oklahoma, where Blacks had settled. Oklahoma was a land of opportunity, had just become the 48th state a couple of years earlier, few years earlier. And here they were, with all kinds of commerce. There were more Black doctors in Greenwood then than there are in Tulsa today. And Metropolitan Tulsa has right at 1 million people.
What?
Yes, it's true. And that was one of the great facts that came out at the University of Tulsa symposium that was held 3 weeks ago, commemorating the 100th, observing 100 years after Greenwood. Yes. And the massacre where a white mob deputized by the white state went in, for the first time and only time in America, an air raid happened, and they snuffed out the Negroes. And the estimates are, most credible estimates are about 300 Black people died, and the community was burned out. Now, the community actually rebuilt. A lot of people don't know. By the 40s, Greenwood had been rebuilt, and then they just destroyed it again in urban renewal by running, I think it's Interstate 244. They ran a new freeway. You know,
they had to make sure that it did not last. It was not going to sustain. So
what they did in the first, what they did in the first instance was destroy Black hopes and aspirations. And not a single one of those insurance claims, of which there were more than 100 in the 1920s, came to fruition. They were all denied. And back then money, it was 1.8 million in claims estimated. Now it'll be far more than that. A great Black private equity man out of Chicago wrote an op-ed recently that indicated that I think his great grandfather's hotel in Greenwood, and that was not the only Black hotel, would have been worth $100 million today. It might have been the seedbed of a Black hotel chain. So there's been this vested interest in official mechanisms being used to destroy the best of the Black. And that's why Dr. King got shot in the face dead off a balcony in 1968. They don't have to kill Black people who aren't a threat, right? So you knock off Dr. King, and now 53 years later, we're still trying to get that check that he said
exactly.
Washington in his 1963 March on Washington for jobs and freedom. So they decapitate the very top so that the rest of us just languish for decades on end in confusion. So I affirm this network's understanding that there's a relationship between our aspirations in establishing Juneteenth and asserting what Dr. King would call a self-assertive manhood, and we would say personhood, all the way up to Tulsa and even in the present. So now what we going to do? That's the question. What are we going to do now? Now that we have this platform and this information widely disseminated on wonderful web resources like Wikipedia, open source materials, journal, we have access to this information now, and we can organize through these wonderful mechanisms like intentional talk radio network, We've got to now mobilize now that we are reinformed. And we've got to, if you will, reincarnate, if I may use that as a transitive verb, reincarnate the spirit of Harriet Tubman and drag our people out and do as she did. Tell them, boy, remember Harriet. There was a moment when she was leading a Black male slave and the dogs were in the distance in the porches, and he said, I'm going back. She pulled that gun and put it to his head and said, boy, you's gonna be free or you's gonna be dead. And we have to recapture that and lead our people to the promised land, which is what Dr. King was trying to do back in the day. We're not going to do it with a white motif. It'll never happen.
No.
We're not.
It'll never happen.
And also, Greenwood wasn't the only time. It happened in Duluth, Minnesota, and we know about Rosewood, Florida. And there are a number of instances where there was Black wealth, Black prosperity coming up in this country, where it was cut short because white people could not stand the fact that Black people were doing better. And it even goes on today. And Amos, you're a bit younger than us, but when Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, you may know, when he was playing basketball, when he was Lou Alcindor, before he changed his name, and he started dunking the ball, they outlawed dunking in college basketball. Now, fast forward to today, Simone Biles did that new move, the Yurchenko move. They're trying to outlaw that move in the Olympics, so she cannot do that. So they continue to do things. And you mentioned they thought we were too dumb to play sports. And I recall when no Black quarterbacks in the NFL,
Black
coaches,
no Black
all these things. And even in those jobs today, a Black coach in the NFL has a harder time getting a job than a white coach. A white coach can have losing season after losing season after losing season. A Black coach has a few bad games and they're ready to get rid of him very quickly. And then he has a hard time finding another head coaching job. So it still goes on today.
It certainly goes on today. Just the sports analogy alone, professional sports is also entertainment. So why can't you do the cabbage patch in the end zone anymore? That's Black creativity, Black male verb being beat down. And I've discovered in the works of Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu in his 5-volume series, Countering the Conspiracy to Destroy Black Boys, that this is not by accident. Then they changed the rules. So like it used to be there was no shot clock. So basketball scores were like 20-20 or 20-5, because you would just run up the score and hog the ball. Right. So when the Black people came along, not only were they better, but you actually had to make the game more competitive. So they added a shot clock. They added a 3-point. They moved the 3-point line out. There are all these fouls added, backcourt, all this, so it's become better because it was integrated. And yet at the same time, there are these rules about what you can and cannot do. So you can't dance in the end zone. Why not? This is not serious. It's not serious. A football game is not inherently serious. It's fun. It's big business. It's normal. Everybody in the world from time immemorial has been into sports. That is a normal part of human leisure. So why can't we do it our way? Look, if we had left the evaluative authority of our genius to the other people, they would have told Martin he couldn't preach, Michael he couldn't dance, and Whitney she couldn't sing. But when Motown came along, and Joseph Jackson,
Exactly.
who developed
Yeah.
these, I heard the last segment when y'all were talking about Quincy and them,
Yes.
you know, and then we invented rap. Okay. Then not only did we rap, we did the scratch. Somebody took a record one day, just moved it around, and you had a new jam.
Yeah.
And don't
We
forget,
invented the backbeat.
don't
Yeah.
forget when Venus and Serena started winning tournaments, somebody, one of the white announcers asked, isn't it time you guys got a real coach?
Even though their wonderful Black father,
Father was
Yeah.
coaching, yeah. And it's like, wait a
And then
minute.
they
wanna
what
Yeah.
are they quote unquote real coach for? Yeah.
And then they wanted to talk about their outfits. What
right?
difference does it make? What difference does it make?
And
They
that's
want
why
to talk
I
about, their
applaud
outfits
Mother
with
Williams, who
Yeah.
used to show up in the stands at Wimbledon in the French
Right.
Open with her hair done up all kind of. I love that because it was so Black.
Yeah.
You know, the aesthetic, I won't comment on the aesthetics of it. Everybody has her own opinion or his own. But I love the fact that it said, I'm here and I'm Black, like James Brown.
Right. Absolutely. And that's what we're not supposed to do.
Right.
We're not supposed to be proud of our Blackness. We're not supposed to have people take it seriously. We're
Mhm.
not supposed to say, see me, I am a Black man or woman. We're not supposed to say that. And it's time for people who are Black to stop apologizing for being Black.
Absolutely.
Stop apologizing for being Black and stop making it something that is so wrong.
And
And
and stop shucking and jiving and stepping and fetching. Look,
Stop
when you're
it.
on a board,
There you go.
Yes.
they put you
Yes.
there because you're Black, because white people are supposed to have everything. So why are you on the board and you're not being Black about it? Everybody else can come out of the closet and
Yes.
fight for their
Absolutely.
everybody.
That's right.
The tiny minorities of people have huge amounts of political clout because they're who they are. And yet here we are, who invented civil rights. We even advanced Protestant religion. Dr. King and his lieutenants are the people who made it a necessity for a serious Protestant minister to engage in social and political issues. That was us. Okay? And yet now we get into the room and think that we're supposed to be like other people, not understanding that you're just worthless at that point. Why be Black and be afraid to be Black in the positions where you are supposed to be? That doesn't make any sense, especially when you owe your job to other Black people. Fannie Lou Hamer lost her eye so that Black people in Mississippi could vote. Okay, Dr. King lost his life so that we would have the Civil Rights Act of '64,
Absolutely.
Civil Rights Act of '65, and the Fair Housing Act
Yes.
of '68. Even though he was around to see, though, he died for those things. And Al Sharpton took a knife in the chest that everybody forgets about so that we wouldn't have to contend with police brutality. He got
And
stabbed.
remember, and look at what's going on right now. Look, and you and I talked about this. Look at the things that are going on right now. And I say frequently on this broadcast and in other places, you cannot compare the Black Lives Matter movement to anything that took place back in the 60s and prior, because Black Lives Matter has nothing to do with Black lives. It has
Right.
nothing to do with inequality or justice. It's simply about moving their agenda forward, and their agenda is simply about the queer nation.
That's
It has
right. And
nothing
all
to
you
do
have
with
to
Black.
read is their manifesto. This is not a slur or some homophobic, just
No,
read
it
their
isn't.
own
It's a
manifesto.
fact. It's a fact.
And
It's a
look
fact.
at where their donations went. You know, they go to Black transgender organizations. 80%, I think, of their stuff went out.
Yes.
$20 million they had went out to very tiny group. And yet they made their money off Black heterosexual males being
Yes,
beat down by
they
dogs
sure
in the street
did.
by white police officers.
Yes.
So
And
how does that happen?
Anybody
And
making-
how does it happen that we put up a banner on Black churches that says Black Lives Matter, but we can't get behind some of these race discrimination lawsuits out here, like these Black Secret
Absolutely.
Service agents
Right.
who were fighting for 15 years,
That's
and
simply
all
a
these
fact.
other lawsuits where we have them under confession? I get them today. I was supposed to be in the green room on this show about 30 minutes before I made it in the green room. I was behind because I have a discrimination lawsuit on behalf of a 64-year-old Black woman with stage 4 metastatic breast cancer, and they won't give her telework. They give all the white people in the U.S. Department of Defense.
What?
Yeah, and she's an EEO officer. So here she is up under oath for 8 hours. I deposed 4 people in her case, and it took 2 hours each. I deposed 4 people in 1 day.
What?
But here she is up under oath for it with the white attorneys. You see, so I can't get anybody to march for that.
Exactly.
Except a handful of Black power people who are very,
exactly.
Or the Muslims. And I'm a Baptist deacon and can't get my own Baptist to do it. I have to go to the Muslims who are fine. I'll march with Jews, Muslims. Anyway, I march with Black Lives Matter because the issue was George Floyd. So if they have the march, I'm going. However, that doesn't mean that you have to follow the whole agenda, hook, line, and sinker. We need Black, organic, Black funded stuff. And we used to understand that when we had the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, or A. Philip Randolph's Black Union in his original March on Washington, 1941, ...
And that's it.
Now, we're so brainwashed, we think that you need white corporate money to validate a Black liberation movement.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
Crazy.
Yes, they do.
And then these people jump up and they think that they're following in Dr. King's footsteps. And
they're not. They don't even know who Dr. King is or was. They're not following in his footsteps. Dr. King would have never done this. Dr. King would have never done anything like this.
We had a gentleman on a few weeks ago who was part of the movement, well, the organization, the founder, whatever they want to call it. And he basically said and showed us, they were having a march in LA, and he showed us where and he was proud of the fact that he had 2 other women that were his security.
Soccer moms.
Yeah. And he says, and what did he say? They put them out front because they can get their foot in the door.
Yeah. First he called them his security. Then he walks over to where they're standing in front of 2 barricades. And then he says, you got to have white people out front to speak for you. They get into places we can't get. But we put them out front to speak for us, and they're very vocal about it. Mm-hmm. They say you have to have alliances, and they're very, very vocal about it. And they don't think there's anything wrong with it. They think there's nothing wrong with it. You have to have these alliances. And my question is, wait a minute, then stop talking about Black Lives Matter and stop talking about having an alliance. You don't put the 2 of them together. They don't belong on the same line. You got to have an allegiance with white folks, and then you're talking about Black Lives Matter, and you're talking about the oppression, the inequality, and you're also talking about white privilege, and you think you're going to be a part of that white privilege? That ain't going to happen. You're still Black, whether you put white folks in front or not. You're still Black. You're still Black.
People need to have a sense of actual sacrifice and mission. As Dr. King said, you may not be able to preach or lead or whatever it is that is indicia of making a difference. But you know what you do have? You have the capacity to die. It might take that. And if you're claiming to be that radical and that committed to the struggle, then you have to be prepared for that. And so part of the flaw of Black Lives Matter is the organizational fiction that you can have decentralized anonymous leadership.
Exactly.
Nothing on earth has ever worked that way and never will, because that's not the way people are wired, either to lead or to follow.
Thank you. I've been saying that since the beginning. Yep. Keep going.
It's a fiction. Every group has leadership. And guess what? That means, you can be decapitated. You can be COINTELPRO'd. Mm-hmm. That's just the way it is. And if you're afraid of that, then the whole summer of last year, I saw not one piece of legislation. Well, I will say locally, there were some cities that enacted ordinances that have done things. But you take Louisville. I'm a native of Kentucky. In Louisville, which has been a progressive city for Blacks with a highly sophisticated and large Black population going all the way back to the early 1900s. They didn't even have body cameras on police officers until Ben Crump made that part of a private settlement in the Breonna Taylor case. So my question is,
That's recent.
it was last year. What were the Black aldermen doing for the last 35 years? Barack Obama got cameras on police officers in Illinois in the 90s. What are they doing, and why are you in leadership when you can't figure that out? So we have an abdication of responsibility because everybody wants to look cute and be pretty on Instagram, and they want to live stream their little revolution.
Yeah.
Instead of actually doing it the right way, where Dr. King and his people, including the NAACP, which was, yes, it was a white organization, but it was clearly, Black people were totally disempowered in the 1910s, financially and legally, when the NAACP came along with white left-wing money. So
is there any more power now? Is there any more power today?
Not like they were. But
No.
But the point is, they had a whole blueprint of legislation 40 and 50 years before it even came to fruition. So all of the demonstrations in the movement were in furtherance of a set of papers that they had already contemplated to hand over to say, okay, now pass this. In the last 15 years, we've jumped out in the streets first and then scrambled after the fact with no paper, no leadership, no negotiators, no diplomatic skills, very little track record of anybody. And then people who are there with ego, who want to look and sound important and get credit for what they did to ignite some of the appropriate theory.
You know,
you can't run a movement on that kind of selfishness and silliness.
You're absolutely right about, and I want to continue on that point that you said, the whole decentralization of the Black Lives Matter organization is a farce. It is a complete farce.
It is
not run an organization. I spent 40 years in corporate America. You cannot run decentralized like that. And one of the earliest things I saw was during the Hillary campaign, when one of the persons in Black Lives Matter was fortunate enough to get an audience with Hillary Clinton. And she asked him, well, what do you need me to do for you? And he had absolutely nothing. He did not know what to say. And the other thing is that this other gentleman that I just mentioned, he's been on a couple of times. And the first time he was on, I said to him, I looked for this particular piece of information on the website. And the first thing out of his mouth was, well, you don't go to the website to find out our information. I said, well, what the hell do you have a website for if I can't go there to find information? And he went on to say, because we're all these different organizations, we're here. Well, that's your problem. You cannot have an organization without organization. And the thing about it is they have their manifesto talks about destroying the Western nuclear family.
And they brag about that.
Oh, absolutely.
Free from patriarchal practices. Guess what? Not in my house. No. Not in my house. That is a problem we have in the Black community. No fathers in the house. And they want to further that to say the family free from patriarchal practices. That is why we are in the position that we are in today.
It's a total lack of discipline.
Yes,
it's a lack of discipline in terms of family organization, and it's a lack of discipline in terms of secular political organization. As I said, it is a fiction, and that's why they get $100 million, and we're out here on the Digital Talk Radio Network, bootstrapping it, just like my law firm in downtown DC that does nothing but save Black people's money, jobs, and lives. You won't find the money flowing in precisely for those reasons, and I don't want that kind of money. But the fact, I of course want the money to do the work, but not from nefarious sources that are paying me to be impotent.
Like George Soros.
Thank you. So if you are killing off the women or the men or delegitimizing the importance of both together or either, then you are destroying the whole community.
Yes, and that's what they're doing. That's exactly what they're doing, and that's exactly what they've done. And the women, Patrice Cullors, Melina Abdullah, all of them, Patrice's wife, Alicia Garza, all of them have subscribed to a fiction mission that supports only them. They're the only ones that benefit, not Black lives, not Black lives anywhere. Nobody can say what Black Lives Matter has done to move the mission of Black folks forward. They've done absolutely nothing. They've moved it back 50 years. That's what they've done, if anything at all. They've moved it back. And the saddest thing that I think is so sad is that parents who have lost children, husbands, brothers, sisters to gun violence from authority figures, they've come out and they speak to what Black Lives Matter has done to them, which is a bad thing. They talk about what Black Lives Matter has done, not to move them forward and not to bring them any justice, but it has harmed them. The mother of Tamir Rice, Breonna Taylor's mother, all of these family members have said, Black Lives Matter means nothing to me because they have not helped me gain peace. They've not helped in the grieving process. They've not helped moving anything forward. They've done nothing. And Patrice Cullors gets all this money. Well, first thing she does is goes and buys a house in Topanga Canyon.
Several houses from what I read.
Several houses.
And she's got
okay?
3 in the
Several
LA
houses.
area, one in Topanga Canyon, one in Inglewood, and one in South LA. She's got a place in Atlanta. And a couple of months ago, she was seen in the Bahamas looking
Buying, trying to buy.
And that's
Barbara
only
Baker
what we
retired
know
in the
because,
BHS
you know, I have some real estate interests and mine are transparent, but there are very easy ways to have anonymous LLCs incorporated in states and have several where you can't even buy. So there's probably way more owned or controlled than we know of. There should be, unless they're really uninformed. But the fact
Well, they are uninformed. But remember, she did not form this 501c3 until recently. They haven't always had a
People started questioning
501c3.
where's the money.
Yeah, where's the money? So when they started talking about, when the media started running ads and running these editorials about where's the money, then they run and get a 501c3 because they have not always been a 501c3. They said they were not an organization. They said they were a movement, and you don't give a movement a 501c3 designation.
Yeah.
So once she got questioned about all of that activity, she goes and gets a 501c3. And I'm sure she got George Soros and some of his cronies to go to the Secretary of State and get her one in a flash. Because it does not take, it's not an overnight process. And all of a sudden, she's a 501c3.
And by the way, Amos, they took down that manifesto that talks about all that.
Oh yeah, they did once people got onto it.
Yeah.
But it's still part of their history, their DNA, and
It is.
their origin. And it's seminal. And the fact of the matter is, Black people need to stop allowing themselves in America to be used. We are I've called it the moral mule of America.
Yes, we are.
Everybody knows that Black people in America have more moral authority than any other group in this country because we've given our best people to advance this Constitution that they deployed against us. Dr. King we gave him up. We endure all of the failure and suffering of the country. We never fight back. And so we have a lot of moral authority. In China, in Tiananmen Square in '89, they were singing "We Shall Overcome" in English. Where'd they get that from? So the fact of the matter is, here we are, and these new people have come in here, these young ones, and they've run up in here and they've allowed themselves to be having other agendas superimposed and laundered through Blackness in order to advance other groups of people whose interests are often diametrically opposed to ours and always have been.
Absolutely.
And that's a problem. And that needs to be snuffed out.
Yes.
It needs to be called out and set aside so that we can reclaim our brains and do this in the tradition that has gotten us the most advancement, the most efficiently, and in the most enduring ways. And again, that's back to the basic fundaments of organization, which we knew how to do. Harriet Tubman had an Underground Railroad going. Dr. King had a freedom train going. And now here we are with a doctorate in every other person's CV. And it seems like the more doctorates among Negroes now are a dime a dozen. Looks to me like the more doctorates we have, the dumber we become, because we don't own any banks anymore, or newspapers.
Don't own a thing.
I'm like Daddy King, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King's father, who they called Daddy King. There was a documentary where they were saying, He was a little different from his son because Daddy King was from down in Georgia and had to talk his way into Morehouse because he didn't have the credentials. He happened to be my father's freshman roommate. My father's father did have the credentials. But so Daddy King, though, worked his way on up and had a lot of ambition and was a great man. He was a great leader of Ebenezer Church, and he got it. He got that church. He got into that, his wife's family. He gave us Dr. King. Like, he was a really textbook example of respectability politics working for us, I should say. But here's the point of this story. Daddy King, they showed him preaching in Ebenezer back in the 30s, some footage to demonstrate how he was different, because Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was extremely refined in the pulpit, very intelligent, a great, in fact, the Riverside Church in New York was thinking about extending a call for him to be their senior minister around the time he was about to be assassinated. But that's in a new Taylor Branch documentary that came out a couple of years ago on the last years of King's life. But here's what's interesting. They had this footage of Daddy King in Ebenezer, who he gotten, high in life. In fact, I'm going to just do this footnote because your viewers need to hear this before I get to the punchline of how I'm going to apply Daddy King's philosophy to the way we look now with all these doctors, and we have less than we ever did. And
and that's something. And
but,
that incredible.
But Daddy King was so effective as the pastor of Ebenezer. His name was Mike King in college. They were so kind of primitive where he was from. His name wasn't even Michael, it was Mike. And it was Mike King Jr. In fact, people like Andrew Young, I think, still call him Mike. Daddy King had done so well as the pastor of Ebenezer. He promoted the life insurance company that one of his members owned. His members had insurance policies, the banks. He did cross-pollination the way Carter G. Woodson talked about, where they had like a little Greenwood going in Ebenezer Church and Auburn Avenue with Black self-sufficiency and lifting up people into the middle and upper classes in Atlanta out of Ebenezer Church. So much so that amid the Great Depression, Ebenezer decided to honor their pastor, and they gave him a trip to Germany so he could go to see where the Reformation happened and on to the Holy Land. Now, don't make the anachronistic mistake. In the 90s, only about roughly 15% of Americans even had a passport. So in the 1930s, for a Black Baptist church in the South to send their pastor to Germany and the Holy Land, this was before Israel was a state, what country, 15 years ago. So Dr. King went over there, or Daddy King went over there, and was so filled up that he changed his name to Martin Luther King and his sons as well. And I think Martin might have been 5 or so. And so I was like, now, you know this if you read Taylor Branch's Pulitzer Prize winning history, Parting the Waters, America in the King Years. If you can read only one book about American and Black history, make it Parting the Waters. If you read it, reread it. Because the older you get, the more you see in these books.
Yeah, right.
So please reread it in light of what's going on now. Reread Carter G. Woodson's essays, The Miseducation of the Negro. He wrote those articles from the 20s to the 50s. It's like he's preaching to us today because we're confused.
And he is.
And he is.
So repeats itself. Yeah.
On to the punchline. Daddy King is in the footage, standing preaching in Ebenezer, and the footage was designed to contrast his kind of stomped down preaching to his son's Boston University highbrow, earned doctorate approach. And Daddy King was talking about how people have gotten confused. You think that you got something wrong in the head. And that's how I feel about us as the people. There's something wrong in the head. You're running off. People will fight you over Black Lives Matter, but not over your local Black organization, whatever it is.
That's right.
Been liberating people for 100 years or more.
Yes.
Something wrong in the head.
Yes.
That's Daddy King talking.
And they'll fight you over that, but not about the wrongs. They'd rather fight you. And the guy that Ken is talking about, he'd rather go to battle with us than to fight and to dispute anything those white folks say. He'd rather go to battle with us. And we're Black folks, I think, last time I checked. Okay? But he would rather go to battle with us and take what they say. okay, which says so much about us. We're the only folks that give in like that.
It's
We're the
true.
only ones that backslide like that.
And I've observed in my practice, I've observed this, and it's like what Carnegie Ritson wrote. Other people have observed Negroes too. We think that we're airing dirty laundry. They figured us out before we did, which is how they
A long time ago. They got our so-called number. They know
And
how
they set it
hard
up,
and how
too.
we aren't.
And
Yes.
they set it up. See, because Carnegie Woodson showed me why we tear each other down, but not the oppressor. He showed it in one of his essays in The Miseducation of the Negro. And I want everybody, y'all know this, but I want your viewers to remember, this is why I want to explain the psychology, because the diagnosis determines the therapy. That's Dr. William R. Jones, the late great philosopher from Florida State University. William R. Jones, who established the Yale University African American Studies program, and he was so Black in the 70s, they denied him tenure at Yale Divinity School, so he had to go to Florida State. But he was a brilliant global philosopher and had a very successful 35 years down there. But he was so Black that they did not give him. But he calls it the DDT. The diagnosis determines the therapy. You have to know what's wrong with you first, see? And so what we have to understand is why we fight each other instead of banding together like everybody else in the world and dealing with the oppressor.
Yeah, there's a pathology behind that. Yes.
In slavery, Woodson writes, the bondsman taught his slave, Kenny Hendrix, nobody, no, let me do it. I'm from the South. Kenny boy, nobody can do horseshoes like you. You're the best in the town. And don't forget everybody out there, like a lot of slavery was not Kunta Kinte, whips and chains. A bunch of slavery was, you were like hired to a doctor and there were 2 slaves. So don't forget, like that's how you could buy your own freedom. Think about, like, the slave master told you, okay, you can keep your earnings you make outside of this house. And if you give me $1,000, then you can buy your freedom from me. And they did it, and they buy their children and what. So don't forget that a lot of slavery did have some empowerment in it, even though you were still a slave. Don't forget that. So Kenny Hendrix, nobody can do horseshoes like you, because I'm from Lexington, Kentucky, so I'm going to make it all horses. Nobody. Then Massa gets some money, and here comes Amos Jones that he bought from over in Virginia. And I show up next to Kenny Hendrix, and it turns out I'm a blacksmith too. I know how to make horseshoes too. And the master done told Kenny, nobody can make horseshoes like, then here I am and I make horseshoes. So Kenny understands this is cutting in on my economic security and exclusivity here with Massa. And I was just going to buy my wife's freedom because we jumped the broom. I got these kids. So we had to fight each other to survive. So they set it up that way, and that's still in us. The diagnosis determines the therapy. And that's why so many, I was a professor for 7 years in North Carolina. So many of these faculty have only one Black professor, and that professor will put in dreadlocks and wear a dashiki and claim they're for Black empowerment, but never ever get the white people or themselves to get another Black on the faculty. Why? Because they enjoy that security from being the only Negro there, and they are keeping their own people behind. And I know
that's absolutely right.
I was on faculty at Campbell University, and I was the only Black person on that faculty, and I was a second-year assistant professor of law, and they made me the vice chair recruitment. The first thing I did was to convince those white people and convince the Black Sister for Reparations, who had written about reparations in 1998 at the Penn Law Review and worked with Lonnie Guinier and clerked for a Black judge in California and had 5 patents. I convinced them to hire her, and she made tenure last year. Because now they got rid of me and I have a race discrimination lawsuit, and that'll be talking on the next show. But I got the sister because I'm Black for real, and it wasn't an Uncle Tom's sister. Can I say coon on this network? It wasn't a coon either. It was a real Black woman. And now she left and she teaches at Howard University School of Law starting this fall. Tunine Chisholm, who was in Los Angeles before that. So I'm not a slave. The diagnosis determines the therapy. I made sure that for the first time in the history of that law school, as racist as I've proven them to be, and as affidavits of their own white people now prove, and I'll get into it another time, I managed to get them to have the first Black woman ever, and I was a second-year person, and we had to engineer that vote. It was an act of diplomacy. I had to work with white people, conservatives. I had to have some authority with those people for that thing. But we don't want to do any of that because it's easier to sit on our behinds and lament what the hell they ain't gonna do that.
Exactly.
Oh, shut up. If Master would let Kenny Hendrix buy his freedom, then we can get some reparations.
Still kissing Master's butt.
Because
that's what they're doing.
That's right. With our moral authority.
They're still kissing Master's butt because Master said we can't do it. And there are more folks like that than others. There are more folks like that. There's nobody else like you.
It's the path of least
resistance. That's why we find ourselves in the position that we're in. That's why all of a sudden, after George Floyd, now all of a sudden, here we go. Diversity and inclusion. And what do you see on LinkedIn? All these Black faces who are now diversity and inclusion directors. Wait a minute. Wait just a minute. Diversity and inclusion directors? Really? Why? And use folks sitting up there grinning because the white boy said you could have a position as a diversity and inclusion director and it makes you look good. And what are you going to do? Exactly as they tell you to do, which is nothing.
And
you
they ain't done nothing.
You know
I can call the row.
Right.
I can call the row on these DEI.
That's exactly what it is.
And I can show you where they were and how nothing happened to a person. And that's part of the head fake. See, the other thing is, it now takes us too long to figure things out because we have too many, as Donald Rumsfeld said of all people, Rumsfeld wrote his book about what happened with Iraq. And he said part of the problem was you have the Condoleezza Rice crowd saying one thing, then the State Department have these views, then defense over here, then the White House, too many hands on the steering wheel. And that's where we are now. Everybody's up with a microphone thinking they have answers with no track record. And we have not figured it out. So we're just now realizing that the Black woman in charge of HR for the last 30 years has been a house Negro. But the train done gone because now we're all in jail in mass incarceration. So now it's gonna take us another 30 years to figure out it's not exactly the police, they're the low-hanging fruit. It's the judges.
And guess what?
And guess what? It's on a police officer, which is of course part of the problem. But that's really though we got to do that. I've marched against police.
But see,
it's way beyond, way beyond Roscoe Pico.
We're attracted to the low-hanging fruit. We don't go to the top. You don't see us climbing to the top of the trees because they think only monkeys climb to the top of the tree. Well, you're at the low-hanging fruit. You're at the low-hanging fruit. You're at the numbskull fruit stage, and they know you're not going to go any further. They know all you're going to do is talk about the low-hanging fruit. You're not going anywhere that's way up high because you can't.
Right.
Because you cannot. You can't even get up there.
They do things to placate. So for example, you mentioned Barack Obama getting the body cams, but the body cams do not ensure accountability because there are still cases where cops have done wrong and it's on the video camera, it's on video, and they are still not held accountable.
That's right.
So you don't have the infrastructure behind that. All that is lip service. Okay, we got body cams. Now what? Yeah, but it was on the body cam that you shot the guy and he didn't have a gun. Oh yeah, but he feared for his life. So
that's right. It's a deeper problem of sociology and everything else. And also that's the case in a lot of my discrimination cases where we have smoking guns, like in my case, but the judges just act like it doesn't exist and they get off. And see, this is why we don't even think about what's really going on. Let me just preface what I'm about to say with a point. If I had a client or someone in my family were killed by a police officer, I would probably call Ben Crump right away. I certainly would call Reverend Sharpton. Those are their wheelhouses. So I want to say that and affirm that. However, look what doesn't happen. Ben Crump comes in like he should. does publicity, which you should do. That's the only way Black people get anywhere, with negative publicity to get moral outrage going. That is it. The movement would not have happened without television. There's a reason it came
That's
in the
what
late
happened back in the 60s when they had
So you needed media. There's no other way.
Right.
So Crump will come in and do that, and then he'll nominally file a lawsuit, maybe. But here's what people need to understand. You can't trust the court system. Civil court is where Black people go for injustice. Nothing works in court with these judges when it's a Black person trying to get money from a white person. That's why Tulsa never got paid. All the litigation has failed every time because Negroes are supposed to get money from white people. And nobody wants to talk about this because lawyers are afraid to talk about what judges do because most lawyers have to keep going before the same judges and they'll be punished. So I have a national practice. I'm a scholar. I'm going to tell the truth until the day I die, no matter the consequences. So Crump, if he were to go into court, it would take 5 years. He would never get $27 million in Minneapolis. If he did, on appeal, they would take it all away. And that little medical examiner who claimed that having a foot on his neck for 9 minutes had nothing to do with George Floyd's death.
Yeah.
He's been doing that for 30 years, and these judges have allowed it. So what's funny is we haven't stopped to realize, okay, I'm glad Crump got that money. I'm glad Crump went to Louisville and did it. There's nothing wrong with Crump. But let's understand that the civil court system, like in Tulsa, is designed to bankrupt Black people and to give you nothing so that you never go to get justice in your life. And I say this as a top-rated, super lawyers rated, former associate professor of law, unanimously promoted by the white school that is being exposed in federal court in North Carolina right now, not only in my case, but in the case last year of a Black janitor whose grandbaby they called a monkey in the dean's suite. And they took that all the way to court, then finally settled with her, right when Roseanne got in monkey trouble, okay? So this is the problem we have, where the very system of justice for real is whites only. And the Negro people out here in the National Bar Association, everywhere else, are too afraid to tell the truth about it and are so scared that when people like us do it, the viewership is relatively low.
Right.
We'd rather have a steady diet of Joy Reid paid by the white people.
Yeah, we're not supposed to.
In the head.
Yeah, we're not supposed to tell the truth. We're not supposed to tell the truth. And if you tell the truth, you can only do it in your home behind closed doors. You can't tell it on social media. You can't tell it in the public. You can't tell it on network news. You can't put it in writing. You are not supposed to tell the truth. You're supposed to tell the version that they want you to tell. Mm-hmm. And that's far from the truth. You are not supposed to tell the truth. And guess what? There are too many Black folks who are not willing to tell the truth.
Absolutely.
And white folks know it.
Absolutely.
And white folks know it absolutely because it's been seen so many times before. So many times. And it's just like you said, we stopped using the term Uncle Tom. Okay, because we were told we can't use that term anymore, Uncle Tom. But guess what? We got Toms, we got a whole lot of folks out there who are doing exactly as they want to do because it keeps them in the clutches of white folks.
Well,
they're doing just what they want to do.
It's been great having you on the program. Very edifying, very educational. Glad we had this conversation. It has been fantastic. And we're definitely going to have you back and spend more time talking about these things. And I love your delivery too. You're very passionate about this and it shows. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And one of the things that I think I mentioned to you, Professor Jones, is that we're going to put together another town hall. And you, as an expert, Dr. Maurice Franklin, who is a descendant of John Hope Franklin, I think I mentioned him to you, and Dr. James Tucker, who's part of the African Voices, who's also a part of the Juneteenth Observance Foundation. We're going to bring all of you back, and we're going to have a town hall to talk about these issues, because anyone with your passion and your expertise and your knowledge about this, you're the people that need to be in the forefront. Absolutely. We talk frequently about leadership and where it's going to come from. You are recognized and should be recognized as a leader. You're a leader. You've got the information, you've got historical information, and you've got current information. And that's how we get to the next level. And we'll never get to the next level if we don't pull all this together, and if we don't educate ourselves, and if we're not proactive. We're a reactive group. We're not proactive. We've got to change that narrative. We've got to. And we really appreciate you being here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Do you have any parting words?
I just want to say, and I love my Black people. I love my people. It has to be predicated on that.
Yes, yes. Thank you so very, very much. And now I will be in touch with you. I will be in touch with you, and we will talk about what I'd like for you to do on that panel. And we've had about 5 or 6 town halls, Kenny, something like that.
4 or 5, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So we're going to do this again, and we just didn't get enough time with you. Thank you so very, very, very much. It's been a pleasure. I will be calling you very soon.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now, do you have a website or anything that you'd like to give to the listeners?
ProfessorJones.us, www.professorjones.us. There's a contact form, and get in touch with me. I'd love to share.
Great. Wonderful. Thank you so much. And I will be in touch. Have a great night, everyone. We will talk with you tomorrow. Conversations in the Mix. Conversations with Collette and Corliss. We're still celebrating Black Music Month. So tomorrow we've got 2 producers that are coming on, and we will be bringing you a wonderful plethora of information. Have a good night, everybody. If you need a ride home, talk to the man at the gate. We'll talk to you.